Hello, fellow Earthlings and any aliens that might have been observing Earth and caught themselves in a YouTube wormhole and ended up in ultralight backpacking videos. Welcome, you too. And I hope that you enjoyed that introduction with the waterfall, because there aren't a lot of videos, clips in this video, because I went to Baxter State Park to take this backpack on a trip and put it through its paces, and I did not take a lot of videos. So sorry about that. I think this video is actually going to be more of a slideshow with narration. But for now, what I got for you is a video of a moose in the lake. All right, I hope you enjoyed that video of a moose in the lake, because, like I said, there aren't too many more videos in this actual video. Because when I take backpacking trips, I don't really like to record myself, because it's kind of weird and awkward to like stop on the trail and think, oh, this is a good spot to film myself. And it's weird to like stop and talk into the camera, because it might be distracting to other people and taking away from their experience, and I might run into somebody, or I might trip over myself. Like, let me demonstrate. Like, let's imagine that this water bottle is like a camera, right? And I'm like walking down the trail and I see this spot that's like nice spot to film. Well, I gotta turn around and I gotta put the camera down and I gotta film myself like walking by, or maybe I can do like a front shot where you see me walking past the camera. I don't know. It's kind of weird to do that. Or if you're like hiking, you like film yourself talking, or you get to camp and you set up your camera, or you take a break and you just kind of like set it up and talk into it. It's all just kind of awkward for me, and I really don't like to do it on my trips because it kind of takes away from my experience. So I try to avoid that sort of thing when I'm out camping. So instead, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to kind of do a slideshow with narration and voiceover and just describe my experiences of what it was like to use this Yar.gear Mountain Drifter Frameless Ultralight backpack, because this is really my first multi-day trip that I took to Baxter State Park up in Maine. It was the first trip I really took with this backpack, and I'm going to talk about my experiences and what it was like to go to Baxter State Park. So if you want some great video, stunning scenery, and amazing lived experience in Baxter State Park, this isn't quite that video, but yeah, it's still going to be with my wonderfully entertaining sense of humor and all that stuff. But enough of this. I'm going to go and show you some pictures of my trip and describe what it was like to use the backpack. Well, let's get into that. Hello, and welcome to possibly one of the worst trip summaries or trip reports that you've ever experienced, because I took this trip to Baxter State Park and I barely took any videos. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this old school style. It's going to be like a slideshow. You know, back in the day when you took your pictures and then you had like a projector and you gathered your friends and your family and you talked about your trip, or you plugged the camera right into the TV in the early aughts or whatever. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be me in a slideshow. There's going to be a little bit of video, but I'm going to talk about my trip. I'm going to talk about my first trip with my Frameless Ultralight backpack, the Yar.gear Mountain Drifter, and that's what it's going to be. So I don't know. I hope you like this. Whatever. Here we go. Okay, and then let's get to the meat here. We've got the Mountain Drifter Yar.gear, and let's just talk about a little bit how I pack this up. And so, on the inside, you know, you try to keep your heavy stuff in sort of in the upper middle area, and I got my sleeping bag, pad, shelter on the bottom, and then I put the clothes bag in, and then the food bag vertically, and then a couple little stuff sacks vertically, and then up top, I don't know, I might have put some quick access clothes I needed, and I don't know, but I got the camp shoes on the side straps. These are perfect for Crocs. The side compression straps were perfect for Crocs, for camp shoes, which were great because my shoes got soaked the first day. It's basically unavoidable out there. And I was able to take off my hiking shoes, let my feet air out, and just kind of putz around in camp shoes in the evening. And that was great. I really like that. The best spot was these compression straps. If you got smart water bottles, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an issue. I was able to get the ever-new water bladder in here and not really have the shoe get in the way that much, so that was nice. And then over here, I had a Toke 750 milliliter pot with a little tiny little cup on top for my coffee and tea and measuring water. And I like to put my rain gear here on the outside with these bungees. I think these bungees also kind of used for a closed cell foam pad. Personally, I put the closed cell foam pad on the inside. And then I got my trusty old Black Diamond trekking poles, which are definitely not ultralight. They really they just keep chugging along though. And then over here on the I guess this would be the back side, I like to carry water here on these front shoulder straps. You can put whatever you want, but these little Hydro Pack Ultra Flask 600 milliliter bottles worked great for water. And I could just kind of sip out of them without having to take them out. I would just kind of lift up the strap and bend my head down a little bit, and I'd be able to get the water. And then they compress really small. As you can see over here, how small they're compressed. So that was really nice to use these things. They weigh about 1.2 ounces. And so total, I got about 1.2 liters for about 2.4 ounces. It's going to be heavier than a smart water bottle, but I found these things just so convenient, and they're not as disposable. They're more, durable than smart water bottles. They're just not as disposable. So I kind of like these sort of flasks better than using a smart water bottle. And as I mentioned in my part 1 video of this ultralight frameless series, is that the smart water bottles kind of round out or barrel out the shoulder straps, and so it doesn't distribute the weight as well. So these allowed me to keep the shoulder straps flat and distribute the weight upon my chest and my torso a lot better than using smart water bottles. And you can see over here I got my little mug on top, and then the back panel I used a cut up closed cell foam, which also functioned as my leg padding in my tent. My sleep system, I use an inflatable torso pad, and then for my legs, I use about 2 feet length of closed cell foam to pad. And so that worked pretty good to give it structure and padding. It was enough. As for back sweat, yeah, there was tons of that. But because this is a laminate pack, my back sweat really didn't penetrate in, or any rain didn't penetrate in either, and everything stayed dry. This is just some of the views you're going to see in Baxter State Park. Like, I'm walking along, all of a sudden there's this pond, and then I got all the mountains here in the background, and in the midground you've got the trees and the forest here with the slightly sloping up in elevation terrain, and it's just very picturesque. The mountains reflecting on the pond. And then the blue sky and the sun to make for a nice photo. This is just some of the stuff you see out in Baxter, and I had to stop and take a photo. And then here, just another scenery. You got this nice stream here. I think this is Wash Stream that comes out of a nice big stream. It was a shoes off crossing. And yeah, you just got this stream with a bunch of rocks bracketed by your trees here, and then a nice little mountain in the background with these clouds and partly cloudy, and it just made for a nice photo, and I couldn't resist taking a picture. And then next up, well, this doesn't look that exceptional, but if you see this little black dot here, well, guess what that is? That's a bear. Okay, yeah. So my first day on my little side trip to Great Falls, there was this bear, and it was pretty cool. And when it saw me, it got up and ran away. I don't have a video of that, but it's good to know that the bears in Baxter State Park are still scared of people. So that's what we want. We want the bears to be scared of people so they don't feel confident going to your camp and rooting through your tent and stealing your food and all that stuff. So after the bear, where we found ourselves out was Great Falls. And this doesn't really do it justice. It was kind of like a stepped falls through a canyon. So it had a nice big elevation drop, but you really couldn't see that because there's just multiple drops. And I got some video here to show you to really give you a better idea of what that was like. All right, I hope you liked that video. I thought it was pretty cool. Maybe you think it's pretty cool, but I think that gives you a better idea what Great Falls was like. And then moving on, when I got into Russell Pond, lo and behold, this is where I saw the moose, and that's the moose there. That's not another rock, that's the moose. And I showed you that video earlier. And then closer up, you can just see the moose taking its head out of the water. And it was eating something in the lake. It must have liked some of the plant life growing out of the lake, because it just had its head dunked in there, and it would go and eat something, and then it would bring its head out. And yep, there was the moose. So that was cool. I got to see a bear and my moose in the first day. And I don't think I saw any other bear or moose for the rest of the trip. But anyways, and yeah, this is sort of just a nice little shot showing my campground and my backpack. And this is after hiking with it all day. And my first hike, very, very enjoyable. Distributed the weight pretty well. I didn't really feel too cached. Having the weight ride mostly on my torso, and the hip belt did a pretty good job of taking some of the weight, as opposed to just a 1-inch webbing hip belt. And there's a little campfire ring and the benches, and then we move on to my shelter. And in case you're wondering, this is a Yama mountain gear tarp, and then a Hillberg mesh tint inner bug netting. And the Hillberg mesh tent's a little heavier than what most people use, but it's just got this great mesh that is got smaller holes than your typical no-seam mesh, and then it's also got a little water and wind resistance to it, I think. And it's got this nice, thick, durable floor, and it's a little heavier than most of your bug nettings. I think you can get a minimalist bug netting that's sort of maybe about 10 ounces, big enough you can sit up in. Now you can get a bug bivvy for even less than that, for 6 ounces or so, or even less. But this inner net tent allows me to sit up and gives me enough room to change clothes and store some stuff. So I like using this inner bug net. And then the whole tarp combo just allows for maximum airflow in the summertime, which I really like, just to prevent condensation, because tents can really get hot and condense that water vapor more so than a tarp. So when I use this setup, even in humid environments, it really helps prevent condensation. And then, of course, here we go. Nice glamour shot of the whole camp setup, which is framed by these trees here. And then maybe you can see Russell Pond here in the background. But yeah, campfire ring and my backpack and my tarp bug netting combo. And that was my home. This is basically my home for 3 days when I wasn't hiking. Moving on, next day I went to Wass Lake, and then there was this nice waterfall, Green Falls, and that was the video I started with. And it doesn't look like much, doesn't look that big, but once you start moving in, you can really see just kind of how tall it is. It was a good, 40 feet falls. I mean, it was a nice little falls. And then I got another video for you right here I'm going to show you. So that's Green Falls for you, and I really like this. It was a nice surprise because I didn't expect this at all. I was just kind of hiking along. Someone mentioned to me it the day before, and I hiked along. I saw the sign. Let's go check this out. It's only a few hundred feet up the trail, and it's definitely worth the side trip. So nice little shot, give you a little perspective, a little different perspective. I don't know. Moving on. Okay, this is Wass Lake, and multiple people recommended me to visit Wass Lake. They said it was their favorite place, and when I got there, I could really understand why. Because you have this nice big lake out in the wilderness with these mountains just kind of like driving into the lake from multiple sides. And then I had this it was windy and rainy and foggy that day and kind of cold. So there are these canoes you can take out, and I would have done it if the weather was a little nicer, but I was already kind of wet and cold, and I just didn't want to go out in the lake and get even wet and colder. So I just decided not to take it out, but it would have been nice to take it out. And you've got Wass Lake here, and it's nice. It's probably at least 10 miles from the nearest parking lot or campground, so it's a little bit harder to get to. It's going to be a real long day hike, or you're going to have to do an overnighter. And so it was real nice out here in Wass Lake, and I enjoyed it. And then at the end of the day, I went up to this little hill outside of Russell Pond, and I hiked up to this viewpoint, and this made for some nice photos. It cleared up a little bit. We got a little sunlight, and you can just see the shadows of the clouds reflecting on the forest below. And then some of the mountains are shrouded in clouds, and it just made for a nice photo, and I couldn't resist taking and stopping. And then, yeah, it's a little different angle, and you can just really see the shadows from the clouds reflecting out onto the landscape. And of course, it's better in person. And it was worth the hike at the end of the day to go check this out after it cleared up a little bit and the sun came out. I just wish the sun might have been out when I was at Wasp Lake and I could have canoed. But then I may not have had enough time to do this viewpoint. So whatever, it all worked out. I'm going to have to go to Baxter State Park now. And at the end of the day, I took a little canoe out on Russell Pond, and you just got your classic sunset photo. Isn't this nice? The sunset going behind the mountains, reflecting upon the lake, and that was very nice. I was glad I got these photos. But it's kind of cool how the sunset reflects differently from different angles, and this is the sun shining on the other side of the lake with the trees, and you can see kind of the orangish pinkish glow, and then the trees reflecting on the lake, and that also made for a nice photo. But then another angle, it's just kind of dull. Over here, it's just kind of dark and dull. You can't really see much. It doesn't look like anything exceptional. But let's get back to the beauty shot here, and yeah, just the sun setting behind. And the iPhone SE was able to take some nice photos, and I really like that. And then you can see in this photo of just the sun reflecting, the setting sun reflecting on this mountain here. But it's not nearly as nice as this gem. So let's just look at that again. Yeah, that's nice. Next day, I went and knocked out Katahdin and went to the top of Baxter Peak. And along the way, there was these sort of high elevation lakes. I don't know if that qualifies alpine lakes, but it's over up near the Davis Pond area, and this is the first lake I encountered. And I kind of got lost here. I kind of lost the trail and went the wrong way, but I was able to find it and kept chugging along. And you can see the tree line kind of petering out up here. I'll get to that later. And here's Davis Lake, and this is almost, I guess this would be sort of like a glacial cirque lake. You can see how it's real steep walls here, and it was kind of carved out by the glaciers up here thousands of years ago, and it makes for this nice lake. Behind me when I took this photo was a lean-to for Davis Lake, and a very nice place to spend a night if I could. I did run to the people up the trail who spent the night at Davis Lake, and they said it was a nice little place to stay for the night. So a couple lakes here. And then as I moved on, as soon as I got above tree line, it was just kind of shrubs, I had to take this viewpoint. It was kind of like the first time on my trip I just had a nice, real high elevation view. And you can see this valley, how this valley has just been carved out by a glacier. And that's pretty cool. And then you can see these mountains here, and pretty clear at this point, not a lot of clouds in the sky. And this just made for a nice photo, and I had to take it and share it with you here. And then I got to the top above tree line, and here we got the tundra. And I got to tell you what, I love being on top of the alpine tundra. It just feels like you're on top of the world. Yeah, it's kind of windy, it's kind of barren. There's not much there, but I really like these alpine tundra environments. And it's much nicer when you have to work for it. When you got to hike up there, yeah, you could drive up the top of Mount Washington or whatever and get up there, but it's not nearly as cool as opposed to hiking and having to work for it a little bit. So I enjoyed that up here. You got some clouds up here, and it was just very nice. And then as I got closer, I just kept taking more peaks. This is on the side, more pictures I kept taking. This is on the side of Hamlin Peak before I get to the saddle, moving up towards Baxter Peak here. And then you can see that trail. And then I get to the saddle, and there's only like a mile to go, and I'm getting pretty excited. And you can start seeing people. I only saw like a half dozen people before I got to the saddle. And so you can start seeing people working their way up the trail to the top of Baxter Peak. And so my seclusion and isolation came to an end on this hike as I was working my way up Baxter Peak. But I'm almost there. You can start to see more people. And these are people here at the peak. I'm getting close, and the peak starts getting pretty rocky, and you're kind of just climbing on rocks at some point. And here we are. Here's the people, and this is what Baxter, or the top of Katahdin's like. There's just a lot of people up here, and it's a bit of a zoo, and I kind of highlight that later in one of my photos. But you get to the top, and it just gets kind of crowded. and didn't really want to spend a lot of time up there. But there are some great views. And over in this direction, I think this is to the northwest, you see some of the lesser peaks of Baxter State Park. And so that's pretty cool. And this is one of the more well-traveled Maine trails that takes you to the top of the mountain. Can't remember if that's the Able Trail or the other trail. I can't remember the name of it. But there's a couple, the Hunt Trail, a couple of more popular trails that get you to the top of Katahdin. In the other direction, you got all these lakes. And I think this is looking south, and you can get the clouds are almost level with you. They're almost at the same level as you. This is about 5,200 feet elevation. So it's just views galore on top of Katahdin. Views don't do it justice when you're on top of Katahdin or on the Alpine Tundra on a big ridge. It just doesn't do it justice. These photos just do not do the views justice. And looking down, here's Chimney Pond Campground. That's pretty popular. A lot of people stay at Chimney Pond and hike their way up, and then they come back down on the Knife's Edge Trail. And these are basin ponds. And this is the valley I hiked in the first day. I just kind of hiked up this way and then took a right between these two hills here and then went up towards Russell Pond. I don't know if you can see Russell Pond, but nice little view of the valley beneath. And here's me on top. I got somebody to take a photo for me. And as you can see, it looks like I'm all alone. It's isolated. The winds, you can see how windy it is with my shirt and my hat. And yeah, this is my 16th state high point. I'm trying to get all 50. I don't know if that's going to happen because Denali costs like $15,000 and takes like a month, and that's a whole expedition in itself. And so, yeah, there's me on top. But this is what it's really like. This is just over to my left, and there's just all these people hanging out. And so you got day hikers and people that finish the Appalachian Trail or might be on a backpacking trip. There's just a whole menagerie of people up here doing their thing, hiking Katahdin. But it's just amazing when you get off Katahdin into the backcountry how much less people there are. And here's Knife's Edge. And this gives you a good idea of what it's like. I mean, you're just climbing over rocks. And I imagine that's what it's like. I wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to do Knife's Edge because I just didn't have time that day. I had an 18-mile day. It was a long day, and I just did not want to throw Knife's Edge in there and add to my difficulty. I probably would have not made it back before dark, and I would have been very tired at risk of falling, and that's not what you really want to do on Knife's Edge. But you can just see how difficult it is to do this and how slow going it is. Pretty cool though. Going down, yeah, just another view of the tundra here. This is a Hamlin Peak over here to the right. I knocked that out, but I just wanted to take a nice view, a nice picture of this tundra and what that was like, and I really enjoyed that. And so this is over on Hamlin Peak, and I believe this is the highest point here. And what's kind of cool is it looks like you're kind of falling off the edge of the world. And you really are, since we are on top of the highest ridge in Maine. You are kind of falling off the top of the world in this little sector. And yeah, it's just all downhill on the other side of this photo. And there's a little top of Hamlin Peak, and I just thought this was a nice little photo to take. And here's me, sort of in the vicinity of the top of Hamlin Peak, and we've got Baxter Peak in the background. You got Knife's Edge over here, and I just wanted to show you, this is what I did today. This is what I did. This photo also kind of showcases the carry while I'm carrying this. I just have a day pack load, but you got my hip belt here, and this is how it looks on me, and it did help distribute the weight. It's not going to distribute the weight as well as a frame pack, but it did help take some weight off my shoulders and my torso. I got my little water bottles here and all that, and so yeah, this pack, and you got the dual sternum straps, and it really was great for the day hike. I didn't really notice it that much, except for the back sweat. Yeah, there's a lot of back sweat, but comfort-wise, with the day load, it didn't feel like it strained all that much. Some day packs, when you carry them all day, they can start to wear on your shoulders a little bit if they don't have solid shoulder straps. But with these nice wide, big shoulder straps, it really prevents that wear that happens on your shoulder straps. And this is what the hike was like. This is the North Peaks Trail, and you're just basically rock hopping. It's really like not very comfortable, and it gets kind of tedious and annoying because you're stepping on rock to rock. You don't know if the rock's going to be stable, and you really just can't kind of cruise on a nice little path on top of the ridge. there isn't much of a trail to be worn in the ground, so there's these cairns over here, and you're kind of going from cairn to this other cairn on top. Most of the time I don't like cairns, but in this case, these cairns, they're really well built and they're kind of necessary because of how difficult it is to find the trail. So this is just a highlight, just how hard it was to follow this trail when I was on the North Peaks Trail, going on top of the ridge. And yeah, here's a shoes off stream crossing, and it just made for a glamour shot of the backpack. And when you had to cross Wash Stream and maybe another stream, you really did have to take your shoes off because it went to knee deep, and you didn't want to just get your shoes wetter than they already are. You want to give your shoes a chance to dry out. Yeah, you can see how floppy my day pack is for this trip, and I didn't put the closed cell foam in there to give it structure and back padding. It was fine for the day. Of course, it was a little sweaty on my back. That got kind of annoying, especially as the day got hotter. But I had about perfect weather to go on top of Katahdin. You really never know what the weather's going to be like on top of Katahdin. It's rainy and wet and all that stuff. But as you can see before, I had a wonderfully clear day on top of Katahdin. It was just perfect. The day before would have been terrible. The day after was not great. But I lucked out definitely on the weather. So I'm pretty happy about that with my weather on Katahdin. And then as I hiked in the next day, I had to take a picture of this nice big glacial erratic. This thing was huge. This picture doesn't do it justice to the scale of this. I was under here, and I had at least a couple feet of headroom. So this thing was like 20 feet high at least, 40, 50 feet long. And this photo really doesn't do it justice. But, these glaciers just came through and just ripped off chunks of the mountain, and they left them in the valleys. And thankfully, none rolled down the hill while I was there. But thousands of years ago, these things just kind of got ripped off the mountain and deposited in the valleys, and they're all over Maine. They're kind of nuts. They are kind of nuts. They're huge. Yeah, and that's the end of the slideshow. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure barely anybody made it to the end, but let's move on to my conclusion video. I really enjoyed my trip in Baxter State Park, and I think I'm going to go back. I'll probably explore some of the more northern area. And since I knocked out Katahdin, I don't really need to go back. I've seen what I need to see, and it's just kind of crowded up there, kind of annoying. But it's amazing. One last thing before we get to the conclusion. Some of these trails, once you start getting a few miles out from the trailheads, the Northwest Basin, the North Peaks, the stuff around Russell Pond. I didn't even go up this Pogie Notch, South Branch Pond area. I didn't even get up there. And I just imagine once you get out in that area, there's just not a lot of people. So, and they limit the numbers, so there's never going to be really a lot of people. So if you want to go to Baxter and get away from the crowds a little bit, get a little backcountry permit. So that's it. Let's get to the conclusion video. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know that was a little different than my usual video that I kind of do. I just try something different. Also because I did a very poor job of actually taking videos during my trip. But I hope that gave you an idea of what it was like to use an ultralight frameless backpack for a multi-day trip, and what my experience of transitioning to this is like. And maybe you got a bit of an idea of what it's like to go to Baxter State Park and climb Katahdin and all that stuff. It's a great place. It's kind of hard to get into these days with the permit situation and all that. But, I enjoyed it. I had a good trip. Maybe there'll be a part 3 where I sort of do more of a sustained backpacking experience rather than what I did in Baxter, which was, had a couple day hikes in there. I think I'd like to take this thing out for a few days where I'm got it loaded up fully for the whole trip, and I'm not like sitting in one place for a few days. I want to be on the trail, moving, got this fully loaded up, and really feel what it's like to carry this for a few days and see if I can actually hack it for a longer term trip. I don't know. But anyways, I don't know if there's going to be a part 3. We'll see. Hold on to your seats. I hope you enjoyed the highly anticipated part 2 of my transition to a frameless ultralight backpack. I'll see you folks later. Bye.